Northwest Liberty News, picking the lock on the shackles of tyranny.
Machines are going to fail, and the system's going to fail.
The past is past, the future's now.
Don't look at me. I think these people are completely nuts.
Sometimes trouble just follows a man.
There is another organism on this planet that follows the same pattern. Do you know what it is? A virus.
Can't you stop your lips from flapping for 2 little minutes?
Because I'm white.
I'm a man. I'm sensitive. I need to feel loved. I need to be desired.
I'm rapidly becoming a big underground success in this town.
It's a question of methods. Everybody wants results, but nobody wants to do what they have to do to get them done.
And now, coming to you live from Kalispell, Montana, brought to you by Northwest Liberty News, it's Montana Gazette Radio with your host, James White. Okay, so I am indeed your host, James White, and this is Montana Gazette Radio. Excuse me. Thanks so much for joining me here today on the broadcast. It is the, I get a little fuzzy on my shirt here. It is the, what is it, the 25th? Let me see here. Let me double check. It is indeed the 25th of February, 2021. Thanks so much for joining me here today on the broadcast. We're coming to you live from Kalispell, Montana. We are expecting Representative Dennis Lenz to be on the line with us here. Of course, the way that things go there in Helena, sometimes if there's committees, I know he has committees and things like that, he can't get out in time. I just sent him a text, so he should be joining us here on the broadcast shortly, hopefully. Okay, it says he'll be on in about 1 minute, so he just texted me. Great. So he'll be coming on the show. Dennis Lenz is, as I stated, he's a Montana representative for House District 53. He's introduced several bills here this session, some of which deal with the CPS, DPHHS actually, and those of you that aren't familiar with the work that I do on my other channel, I pardon me, you're not familiar with the work I do on my other channel. I do cover CPS and family court type stuff with under the critical disclosure banner. So if you want to see more about that, just go to criticaldisclosure.com. criticaldisclosure.com, and be prepared to be shocked, folks, because some of the stories on there about what has happened to some of these families at the hands of Child Protective Services is I mean, criminal doesn't even come close to describing it. It's just a downright evil. It's downright despicable what some of these families have had to go through. And, you know, I would strongly encourage you to go to criticaldisclosure.com and check out the different videos. There's lots of them on there, the links to videos and articles and news and information. It's not updated very often because I get so many responsibilities, and I lost both my assistants, so it's difficult for me to keep it updated. But this doesn't matter. The stuff that's on there is evergreen. So go check it out over at criticaldisclosure.com. Looks like our guest has arrived here in the chat room. Let's see, pull him up here. I don't know if he's going to go video or what we're going to do, but we'll see here in a minute. And he's joining the meeting right now. Again, folks, here we are. We're waiting for Dennis Lenz, a representative from House District 53, to join us here. He'll be on the line with us just a moment, and we will at that time go over some of the bills that he has introduced. I don't know if all the ones that we have here, he's introduced all of them, but we're going to talk about the ones, all the CPS bills that are there. Let's see, he should be popping up here any minute. Should be joining us here on the show. So if you want to support this broadcast, you can go to montanagazetteradio.com. That's montanagazetteradio.com or montanadailygazette.com. Montana Daily Gazette now is a #1 online publication in conservative, certainly in Montana, and news altogether, I believe, online news in Montana. And what we're doing there is just trying to put out the truth and fight back this tyranny. See, okay, so he must have the wrong connection, because he says waiting for the host. So I have to send him a text here. Let's see, maybe you have the wrong link. Sorry, folks, we're going live here, and since I don't have a producer, I do all this myself. So I have to be the one that, takes out the garbage, sweeps the floor, and does all the scheduling. So not complaining, just saying it's sometimes we get snags here and we have to work through, and that's what we're doing now. So I may have to send Dennis the new link to this whole operation back out to him again, which I'd be happy to do. And I think I'll just do that real quick. I'll send this to him real quick. There he is. He's got it. All right. He's in now. Excellent. I think. Isn't that funny? Where, there we go. All right, Dennis. Excellent. I don't know what happened that first time around, but we're glad to have you here. Let me get you over here on the big screen. Give me a second here. So let me remove this because you actually are here in person. And let me pop this over here for you. And there we go. Representative Dennis Lenz from Montana House District 53. I've already given you a proper introduction before you popped on screen. Thanks so much for joining us here today, my friend. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule there to join us on the show. I know it's a hectic week there in Helena, and really, really do appreciate you taking time.
You bet. Glad to be part of this. I apologize for being a little late. Was in judiciary and also working on human services amendment. So
no, and that's why I stated. That's why I stated. I said, folks, when stuff goes on there in Helena, I mean, people don't always get out when they say they're going to, because things go over. I mean, what are you going to do? I've been there and I know how that works. So not a problem at all, man. Not a problem at all. I tell you what we'll do, Dennis. I've got the bills here, some bills that I want to bring up, but before we do, let's get your overall perspectives, if we can, just before we dig into the CPS related bills and stuff. That I think there's 5 of them. They may not all be yours, but I think 2 or 3 of them are anyway. Let's get from you. Let's get sort of a 30,000 foot view on how you think things are going so far. And when I say how things are going, I'm talking about conservatives, and the constitutional principles that guys like you and I, stand for and fight for. How do you think things are going so far in Helena? I know we've got the carry bill, or the permitless carry bill has been passed. I think I'm hearing that the personhood amendment's got a good chance, which would really be huge here in Montana. Give us, Dennis Lenz, HD 53. Give us your overall 30,000 foot view of how you think things are going so far into the legislative session so far.
I think mostly it's going well. Like you mentioned, the personhood amendment is still in the process, but 4 other pro-life bills were brought forward. I can't remember the number. Representative Grief, Representative Sheldon Galloway, Representative Regier, one other one that passed out well. The women in women's sports bill passed out, which is a conservative principle too. House Bill 102 was awesome. The carried by Representative Burgley. But I would also say that this looks different for conservatives. We have spent so many years fighting and bringing forward bills that we knew didn't stand a chance, but we were, we're going to put them on the governor's desk and make him veto them. Now we have a Republican governor there that's in transition. And so you can't do everything at once. And there are priorities there. And there's possibly a little frustration on certain things, that certain items are not moving as fast. I wouldn't say from my end, from Department of Public Health and Human Services, which is 42% of the budget, that it's so big. It has so many cultural issues. The director wasn't placed until late. In fact, he's not fully approved yet. So that's been something that has to wait. But many of those issues don't require legislative intervention. A good department head could change many of the cultural issues in that.
Well, as you mentioned, 42% of the budget, it's a behemoth. That's for sure. And, in some instances, not necessarily, it's not a blanket statement across all the board, but many times they have unlimited funding and very little oversight on some of that funding. I mean, so it's a lot of dough. It's a lot of dough, that's for sure. And
it is, with not a lot of oversight.
Right. I know
Yes.
that. I know this. I knew. I mean,
One of the ones that was very descriptive, this, I think we heard the bill, it was carried by a Democrat, and they were wanting, I'm trying to hunt for the terminology, people who are disabled, things that they need to facilitate their life and help them a little better life. This certain section of the law had $30 million left over, specifically. And typically under the Bullock administration, they just slump that into another area. And, that bill that was brought forward is like, no, if you're allotting this money for this thing, then it should be spent on that thing. But then the one thing that was brought forward, the head of the Medicaid division, you could tell that they weren't the least bit compelled to make this a better program. They were just fine with that 30 million going to some other thing that they wanted to accomplish.
Well, it's always very easy, as you know, to spend other people's money. I mean, that's a national pastime, I think, in Washington, D.C., for crying out loud. Yeah. Okay, so Dennis, we've got a few bills here that I want to speak about, if you can. As you know, I've had you on my show before talking about DPHHS, CPS. I had Debbie Westlake on my show numerous times. I've had many people here in Montana on my broadcast that have been treated wrongly and unfairly, especially since it's their children. But we don't have to dig into the minutia with that. All we need to do is say people are aware of it, but the work that you've done, the work that I've done, the work Teresa Manzella has been a strong proponent of that as well, and others. I think right now is a great time with the changeover in the new administration to highlight some of these. We do know, and I think you probably agree. Before we continue down this path, I just want to make it clear, and I've said this on the show many times. Yes, in fact, there are situations where children are in peril. They need some intervention. People need to help them. The parents, let's face it, folks, you don't need any training to become a parent. I mean, you just become a parent, and doesn't mean you're good at it. So there are some situations where some intervention needs to be made to protect children. I want to say that up front. I agree with that. Dennis, I think you would agree with that too. I want to get that.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about here necessarily. It's the abuse of the ability to, and the power that they are given, and the abuse of.
I would say
power.
more inconsistency. Children are being removed too quickly, or they're being given back because the courts have ruled against the Child Protective Services so regularly that they're scared to misstep. And so they're also scared to do what the child actually needs. They're just like, let's just get this case off the board. And so it's just so inconsistent, and everywhere in between. One of the cases I looked at was a gal who had her first two children removed. And as legislators, we're able to look at these cases if the parents allow it. We can't, photocopy anything or take pictures of anything, but we can look at the cases. And there was a great example of, I agreed with them after I looked at that her drug issues really, it was legitimate why they removed the first two. Now she just had a new baby, and that was why I was there. And they were hovering like a vulture, removing this new baby when she was clean and in a sober living arrangement and was doing everything right. But I'm like, this is inconsistent. Nobody knows what the rules are.
Well, here, and that brings, I don't know how much time you have here, but that brings up another point that I've brought up before. We have to make a solid determination what type of a disability or what classification drug use falls under. Because in certain circles, it's a mental health issue where they send people to rehab to get fixed. And in other circles, it's a penalty and they take their children away because they are using drugs. What is it? Is it a mental health issue? Do they need mental health intervention? Because if that's the case, are you going to take someone's child away that are depressed? What if they, where are you going to stop? Where are you going to stop? Is any mental health issue now qualified for you to take their children? So, that's what I think we need to define. The definitions need to be really succinct because, these people's lives are at balance here because you take someone's children away and then they go into the system and you may never see them again. Or I mean, because I've had people that have never seen their children for years now. They don't know where they're at. They don't know where they're at. I mean, before you do that to a family,
well, there's a whole other story.
Go ahead.
Missing and indigenous children.
Oh yeah.
One of the things that I'm actively trying to find out. Most of these children are in the CPS system.
That's right.
And I'm having trouble getting definitions for where are they. So that's something that a meeting with the Native American Caucus at noon today, we're trying to develop some things to overlap in that, because everybody goes Indian Child Welfare Act. Oh, they fall under ICWA, and so that's just the way it is. Well, that still doesn't mean in Montana that we can't actively try and develop a better system around what the federal government has said we have to operate under.
Well, I had, and then we'll go over to the bills here, but I had, for weeks, I tried to get this couple on the show that stood up against, they were Native American on the reservation, that stood up against the water compact publicly, and they sent CPS in there and took their children, is what they did, as a retribution for standing up. I mean, it's been weaponized, Representative Lenz. It's been weaponized in some sense.
I agree with that.
And we just can't have that. I mean, if it's really about the kids, then you know what? You'll get compensated when you reunite families, not when you foster them out, because that's the way it's set up now. They get compensated primarily when they complete the adoption or complete the fostering. That's when they get the cha-ching. They don't get a whole lot of money by bringing families back together again. I mean, it should be the other way around.
No.
Right?
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
All right, let's go over a couple of these bills here, if you don't mind, if you've got time.
You bet. Yep, I've got the time.
Okay, so we have here, first one here is $4.99 and introduced by, it's got the asterisk there. I don't know if that's your bill.
That is Representative Trebus's bill.
Okay, can you speak on it? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Let's see, reasonable efforts. So what it's trying to do, and I glanced at it for him and gave input on him, but I haven't actively had my head in it. So what it's speaking to is something that I just touched on, the ICWA cases. ICWA cases are requiring a more active social work. In fact, in the ICWA courts, like we have in Billings, we have one judge that only does ICWA cases in this situation. The social worker has to be much more active. So you can't just make one phone call, oh, they weren't home. No, you follow up and try and find the uncle, or you get on Facebook and try and find the grandma, or whatever it is. So there's many more steps, and the judges are much more active in expectation status hearings. So status hearing being a regular, ongoing, how are you coming with your plan? And so this is what the primary reason for the reasonable efforts is overall to establish a parameter, that an expectation that would be a reasonable effort. That until you meet that you haven't done a reasonable effort with these children to do that. So that's, I think, kind of an outgrowth of the ICWA situation, or at least it's parallel.
Wonderful, thank you. And again, you can certainly, these bills that you didn't sponsor or author, you can do pass on them, and I would completely understand that.
It's fully in my wheelhouse, is the issues too.
Very good. Okay, so we have for this is you. If you don't know this one, we got problems, Dennis.
Oh, this is mine. Yeah, this is mine.
Sure. HB 450. Go ahead.
So one of the issues that I think, and so we're constantly talking about that the social workers are, underappreciated, and they're overloaded, and they are not there very long, and then they move on to something else. Well, what I'm wanting to do with this is providing a specific licensing, a specific certification for child and a family specialist. And so certified child protection specialist. And so they would do the licensing, the fingerprints and the expectations, passing a test to get to that 40 hours. Well, I guess I don't know about the test. That would be up to some of this stuff would be up to the board as to how they establish that. But what I'm wanting to do is create a level of professionalism.
Right.
so that they all are to the same standard. Because when you come into this arena, you can have a criminal justice degree or a psychology degree. You don't necessarily have to have a social worker degree.
Mm-hmm.
And what I want to do is though they do have an intake procedure, 20 hours of training. And I don't know if there's like ride-alongs for a certain time or you have to do so many cases jointly. But the point with this is that we got 40 hours of law and ethics and policy and expectation. So we're all on the same page. On the flip side, negatively, if you're not doing what you should do, you're one of the bad actors. And as we said, there are some out there that license can be removed. The procedure be in place that then the license will be moved and then you can't work in this.
I like that a lot. I think that's an excellent idea because they do that with other they do it with other professionals. You know, if you're a doctor or, you know, geez, a massage therapist, for crying out loud, and you get enough knocks against you, they'll remove your license and you can't technically legally
absolutely.
Practice in the state. Now,
and these guys aren't, you know, I didn't go down the road of which I thought about going down the road of taking out like creating a child removal specialist.
Mm-hmm.
So they would be separate from social worker would be over here. The child removal would be over here. And because it's odd that if you're removing a child, you kind of have a vested interest in articulating why I was right in removing this child. Whereas if they were separate, but I said, we can go down that later. In the meantime, I want everybody licenses involved in this.
You know, here's another point, Dennis. I've, you know, an extensive amount of research, and when I tell you that I've got so many files on CPS and stuff, you wouldn't believe it. What I'm understanding is when they first started, their original mandate, of course, was to protect family, reunite families, protect children. When they go into a house, we said this, they're almost the number one funded agency. I think by far of all the agencies, 42%. That's got to be, there can't be another one that's bigger. I can't believe there's another agency that has more, because there's no defense spending here in Montana, so to speak, so it's got to be that. So you tell me when they go into a family's home that say, you know, we can't afford to pay our heat this month because we're running low on money, or we don't have food in the cupboard, why don't they come in with support and say, okay, we're going to help you for a couple of months pay your heat, and we're going to help you buy groceries, rather than snatching and going, okay, well, then you're not a good parent, off with the kids, out of here. Yes. It's like, why don't you just like help us? Why don't you just like help us for a couple of months until, you know, my husband gets his job back, or until, you know, something like, and just help us along. We don't have to break our family up, because, you know, why don't they do that, Dennis? That's how it was supposed to originally go in the beginning. They're supposed to help families with that type of stuff, aid and food and heating bills for a period of time, not forever. But I mean, now that's an excuse now. It's like a mark against you. It's like they've turned their whole thing to like an evil angle on things. Like, we got to get those children out no matter what.
Well, they say that there are two things that they are keeping children safe and helping families. I've said over and over and over again that the second part they suck at. You know, they're, you know, safe. If you're going to take a child and put them in a box, well, I guess they're safe. You didn't actually accomplish it the way you should have. But they know how I feel about this. One of the things that is in play here, there is a federal act called the Family First Prevention Act that came into play. We have about 5 well-supported, that's a term, that the parameter that we had to meet to be part of the Family First Prevention Act programs, that then we can take federal money and divert it towards supporting the families and keeping them from being removed, which that's great. And I think if we can leverage that moving forward to maybe change that culture, but ultimately that culture is the biggest issue, because much of this they could have already done. They're just stuck in that rut of removing and then asking questions later.
It's almost as though they're running it like a business. It's a profit business. And I hate to say that, but man, I tell you, I wish I had another way to describe it, but it's almost turned into like a for-profit business.
Right. And I think that's a driver, but I think a bigger driver is cover your ass.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that is you bring in a 22-year-old new graduate of U of M in social work. if you have two options about what to do with the kids, support them and hope it works out good at home, or remove them, you're going to divorce. You're going to go towards CYA. You know that's safer for them. And so coming back to that licensing, so if we can keep them there longer, they have more experience. They go, I've seen this before. I think we can hold off a little bit. I think that would help.
Or some sort of a review board or some sort of a citizen's jury or something before they remove children. I mean, they should have a chance to,
That's come up before as some kind of a review board. That's still on the table, I think, is in the future.
Because, Dennis, as you know, and then we'll go on here the next, as you know, I mean, some of these families are devastated. I mean, I've had mothers that have been on my show that have later, after my show, committed suicide because they couldn't get their children back. They took like 4 or 5 of their precious children, and they fought and couldn't get them back, and that was their will to live was gone at that point after they got fostered out. Now, that doesn't happen all the time, but even if it happens one time, I mean,
Right.
it's when it can be avoided, when it could have been avoided. And anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
No, you're fine.
Okay, so we've got this next one here. I don't know if it's even got a bill number.
Okay, so this is House Bill 90.
Okay.
This came out of the, let's see.
Emergency Protective Services hearing within 5 days of a child's removal from the home.
Yes, so I'm pretty certain this is House Bill 90, which is on the floor today, on the main floor. It came out of Children and Families Interim Committee, and what it is establish a five-day hearing for your initial hearing. Currently, as it sits right now, it's a 20-day, what would be called a show cause hearing, where they would show you the reasons, what you need to do to get your kid back. Well, the 20 days can be deferred and deferred and deferred. One instance I've heard of is it was deferred for 6 months, and then they said they didn't have a case and gave the child back. So what this would do is that 5 days is a hard line. You would then come in, and they would know the expectations of them, because some of these parents wouldn't necessarily. Some people would go, okay, I'd love to have this done quickly. Other parents are kind of in denial. They have some work to do, but the 5-day hearing would establish that hard line where they would the expectations would be, say, you're needing to do drug treatment, you need some parenting classes, et cetera, in the hearing. Now, a lot of the hearing, the judicial term, the judges look at that and go, well, that's a little constrictive, because we're actually doing pre-hearing conferences. So before you even go into the judge, your lawyer, the parent, the social worker, and the district attorney representatives are in there and saying, okay, this is what we're seeing. This is the affidavit. Your children removed for this reason. What are we going to do to solve that problem? They come to an agreement and don't even have to go through the hearing if it's not contested. And then the judge just signs off on it and they move forward. So, but what it is establishing a 5-day parameter for this. So it's earlier, for good or bad. Those are the expectations. So one of the things that was articulated, and as this is kind of currently in a pilot project in Yellowstone County and Flathead County, and Judge Berger out of Dillon is wanting to do it for rural judges, because he has 3 counties, Beaverhead, Madison, and Jefferson, I think. So he wants to be able to figure out how that works in the rural counties. And so they're all currently doing it on a 5-day hearing. And so that's kind of what's compelling this, and that we can think we can do this better, get that out quicker. The expectation. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I kind of got my brain ended up somewhere. That's surprising right now. It came up in a hearing the other day that prior to this, it took like over 400 days to resolve these cases. In the pilot project areas, it's 300. So you're saving, it was 400 something compared to 300 something. I can't remember the exact figures, but saving 100 days on these cases.
That's a lot.
That's significant.
Oh yeah. Well, and already in an overloaded court system already, for crying out loud.
I
Right?
think I would estimate the 100 days is that beginning when you have 20-day show cause hearing and it gets deferred a couple of times. That's the bulk of the 100
You're
days.
probably right. That's
there.
good thinking. Yeah. Okay, next one here, and I got a comment on this one here. I'll give you my definition of what imminent danger is, but this next one here is, again, I don't think it has a bill number, but it is the act generally revising laws related to child safety, providing a definition for imminent danger and amending section 41-3-301 of the Montana Code annotated. Are you familiar with this, my friend?
Representative Trebus is carrying this. I was familiar with it. I carried something like this last time, and I won't go too far down this road because I don't know exactly where he's going with this or how it's been amended. But his, creating it that, because as you mentioned before, in some ways, that your refrigerator wasn't stocked up, it could fall under imminent danger. You're not being taken care of. Because when they remove, it's emergency. There's emergency the sheet that we see. One side is like the really good reason, simple, straightforward for why we're doing an emergency removal. The flip side is like the imminent danger side. Like, well, they're an alcoholic, but are they a dangerous alcoholic or whatever? And so what he's trying to do is define better the imminent danger, because when you read the flip side of that thing that they're giving to the parents, you could twist it however you want it.
Well, let me give you my definition of imminent danger. Here's how it should be in my view. It's imminent danger if the child is in such peril that that cannot be remedied before the next court date opens and a judge can get on a bench and sign a warrant or do whatever's necessary to take further actions. If the child if the child's in danger before that next thing can happen, whether the next morning, whether it, middle of the afternoon, they can practically do it immediately. If they're afraid that the child's going to get injured or die before that can happen, yes, I think that's imminent danger. But you know how many people I've had on the show here, Dennis, that have had emergency removals and they showed up 3 and 4 days later and took the child? No kidding. 3 and 4 days later after they issue an emergency removal. You telling me, I mean, think about it here, folks. An emergency removal. What if your arm got cut off on a saw and you said, well, we had an emergency. We're going to wait about 4 days before we go to the hospital. Yeah, you'd be dead.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it just doesn't, it doesn't make sense. These have to be.
When in that area of what they're calling imminent danger, it's just so gray. So I brought a bill forward last time that would define this as, and I can't remember the exact words I used, but that's like they're in immediate danger of death or harm, and beyond that we could discuss it. And that was a heavy lift last time. So
from a text that came in here, it says, can you ask if there's a bill coming that would force prosecution for bad actors? I guess that means maybe people that because there's some people that do, to get back at their neighbor, they call CPS to punish their neighbor, so CPS visits them to give them a hard time. I mean, this happens. Okay,
so if it's on that line, that is a bill that just passed out of committee on anonymous reporting.
Yes.
Anonymous. So if that's one of your bills there, so to essentially eliminate anonymous reporting.
Fantastic. And I know the sheriff.
So that you would have to tell them who you are. One of the things that was brought up is, we've had drug dealers bring forward that, this mother came to my house and she brought her kid and I'm worried about the kid. Yeah, okay, whatever. But the other thing that was brought up was a apartment building where everybody didn't like everybody and they were calling CPS, and everybody had kids and everybody was calling CPS to get back at everybody, and ex-husbands, ex-wives.
Yeah.
So this is why, though there is some pushback by the law enforcement community in here, mostly coming back to the conservative position, everybody's going, I think this is the way it should be. So the next one you were pulling up there is Representative Zolnikov's bill that would provide equal consideration, because from her perspective, and I didn't hear the hearing or anything, but from her perspective, that a lot of times the dads are shorted in this.
Oh yeah, they are.
And they're not given equal footing on what their needs are concerning the
Well,
child.
that reminds me of a bill that came out. I don't know where it was, but it was in where was it at? Where they gave the father the equal consideration as far as getting an abortion. They gave him the right to have a say in it.
Oh yeah, that was Tennessee or something. I seen that, but yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm gonna Dennis, we're just coming to the end of the interview here, but I'm gonna hit you with something here that I had a woman on my show last year from Oregon, and this can never happen in Montana, man. I mean, I don't know what one. It won't happen under your watch, but she had three. She was a parent advocate. She was an advocate for parents. 3 parents called up the CPS in Oregon to get pregnancy tests. They went in there and they were found to be pregnant. CPS said, well, if you can't afford the pregnancy test, then you probably can't afford your children. Maybe you should get an abortion. They said, no, we're not going to get an abortion. Within 2 days, there was anonymous calls to CPS. They took their children, and then when they went to the follow-up meeting, they said, you can have your children back if you get that abortion. I mean, they literally told them 2 women got abortions. One
took
woman
their children that they already had.
They'd already had their children because they got anonymous calls after they went to their pregnancy test. They got anonymous calls to CPS, like you talked about, and then CPS came out and took their children. And then when they had their follow-up meeting, CPS said, you can have your children back if you decide to get an abortion. And 2 women did, and 1 woman didn't. The 2 women that did never got their children back and still had the abortion. The 1 woman's fighting it right now. This is a year ago, so I don't know. The child's been born.
Yeah,
but that's just. And
I haven't seen anything quite that extreme here, but I've seen things that are troubling. The most troubling one when I initially got into this 2 years ago, mother who had 4 kids, husband died. She ended up having a relationship with a local guy in the town, having another child. After a while, several years, this child was about 8 or something. She didn't have any relationship with this guy, other than what she had to. And she's suspecting something and called up CPS. And they removed all of her children without any just cause, because I looked at this case. She didn't give them back for 8 weeks, and never was able to really quantify with this 5th child what was going on. And like, this is ridiculous. And that was kind of what got me in the middle of it. And of course, when she testified on my bill, CPS showed back up again and says, hey, we're going to relook at this case. That was the most egregious I've seen. Now, since I've been actively involved, have a good relationship with the administrator of this department and her vice person, I think we're kind of slowing this, because she knows that I have pretty strong expectations. I'm not willing. I don't have to be a hard ass, but I can still say, Marty. Her name is Marty Vining. We see things need to look different, Marty, and she's been very helpful. Now she's been kind of restricted under the Bullock administration for what she could say, and in the transition period here with this governor, they're kind of not quite knowing where everything goes. But she's been very helpful. Which has been a start. That's been a start.
Well, I would like to see these parents get due process. That's all.
Absolutely.
The Constitution guarantees us due process. If life, liberty, or property is taken from us of any value, we are afforded due process, which means a jury of our peers, an ability to present our case, to call in witnesses on our behalf if we have to. I mean, this is serious stuff. They take some of these children, they never see them again. When I'm telling you, they never see them again. I'm not making that up.
Oh, yeah.
They never see them ever again. I mean,
after that certain time period, they consider it too late and they're gone.
They're gone.
Yeah.
Dennis Lenz, I tell you one thing, man.
Right.
You do great work there. I'm always enjoying speaking to you, man. You're always there fighting for children, and you and I share the same spirit when it comes to that, man. Fighting for children, and you know what, Dennis? I say it on my show often. There's a lot of males in this country, but not a lot of men. And I appreciate you standing up and being a man, because men are supposed to protect women and children. And I think I commend you for that. My hat's off to you for that. Representative.
For that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you being on the show, brother. Talk to you next
time. Yeah, you bet.
Yep, great job. Yep, bye now. Okay, folks, there goes one of the good guys, Dennis Lenz. We're really delighted to have him here on the show. If you haven't seen the broadcast that they've done with Dennis before. You can check it out on Northwest Liberty News. We're going to take a quick break here. We'll be back on the other side to talk about this. Going to sort of wrap this up here and talk about some of the stuff that's coming up. I got another big interview coming up later on this afternoon with a couple of the legislators, and it's going to be good times. Some good things are happening here in Montana. We'll be back after these brief messages here on Montana Gazette Radio. I'm your host, James White. If you like classic cars, exceptional service, and a money-back guarantee, then the Corner Shop in beautiful downtown Kalispell is the place for you. Whether it's an oil change, engine diagnostic, suspension work, or brakes all around, the Corner Shop has you covered. With expert technicians and a free consultation on all services, you can't go wrong with the Corner Shop. Did I mention the classic cars? While you're waiting for your expert service to be performed, take a stroll through the showroom to see Kalispell's smoothest collection of classic cars. The Corner Shop is conveniently located at 1212 South Main, just south of the courthouse. The Corner Shop is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m., so drop by for an appointment or call 755-7777. That's 755-7777. The Corner Shop, Kalispell's full-service auto repair facility. Hi, this video is brought to you by PatriotPrepared.com, where right now you can save $250 on each large package purchase, plus get free shipping to the continental United States. In these troubled times, it's not a bad idea to have some extra food storage available, and you can save big at Patriot Prepared right now. Go to PatriotPrepared.com, that's PatriotPrepared.com, and use the code TRUMP250 at checkout to receive your savings today. Okay, folks, thanks for hanging out with me after the break. I appreciate it. I'm your host, James White. You know, I haven't had a chance to make this announcement because I've been so darn busy and I often forget to, but we're starting a new network here coming up on Monday, March 1st. It's going to be called One Republic Network. One Republic Network. I think it's onerepublicnetwork.com is, I believe, the website. I'm not sure if it's even up yet, or I don't think it is, actually. But that'll be launching on Monday. I'll be mainly the engineer and producer of that show, pretty much. It's going to be probably Dave Von Kleist and Kelly Higgins and Jason Q are going to be the people that are going to do that show mostly. I'll be there at times. I'll chime in and give my views and opinion, but there's a lot of cool things that we're bringing in, a lot of different, audio drops and videos and a lot of different things that we're doing a little bit differently than my normal interview show. This is going to be more of an entertainment type thing, news entertainment type thing. So I'm going to be pretty much doing the producing of the show, but again, I will be occasionally coming in and giving commentary and that type of thing. So, but I'll still be a member of the show, but just not a big part of it. Is well, behind the scenes, more behind the scenes. So you can check it out, onerepublicnetwork.com. I believe we're starting here coming up on Monday, 2 or 3 hours. I'm not sure. I think it's going to be 11 or 12 o'clock. Still not sure, but I'll send those all out. I'll send those all out to all those announcements out when we do finally make that decision. Okay, so we want to appreciate Dennis Lenz coming on the show. For those of you that have followed my work at all for any amount of time, I have a heart for working with people that are being victimized by CPS and family court. I'm really delighted to hear that that Dennis Lenz has got a relationship, apparently, with Marty Vining, who runs the DPHHS. I think they've just they're trying to get a new DPHHS supervisor in from Kentucky, and I still haven't even wrote my report about that. I have to do that. I'm really going to try to get that done because Kentucky is one of the worst CPSs in the whole country. By far, hands down, Kentucky is one of the worst. And my view is, I don't know the gentleman, don't have any idea who he is, never talked to him, never met him. But if he was running Kentucky CPS, we don't want him here. We don't want him here. And just do your own research and look up what goes on. Just look up for my interviews for Mark and Terry Stamen. Had 7 of their children taken by Kentucky CPS. 7 of their children taken. And they're not the only one. They're not the only one. I have a voluminous amount of people that have come from Kentucky and been victimized by the Kentucky CPS. So we don't want that kind of leadership here in Montana. We want to we don't want the CPS, going, being on steroids here. We want accountability. We want more effort being put into keeping families together and keeping children in homes. Even if you have to intervene and help the parents with, again, paying for the heat bill, or helping them stock up the fridge with groceries, or if they have a drug problem, then helping them get drug rehab, or working with their insurance company to do that. This is what keeps families together. Okay, it's not a good maneuver for a child to be taken from their natural home and sent to a stranger's home, who a lot of times is doing it for the money and other terrible, dark, nefarious things. CriticalDisclosure.com. Just go to CriticalDisclosure.com and spend about an hour or 2 hours on that website. And then you're going to have to lay down and take a nap, probably, or take an aspirin, because it's painful. It's painful. That's for sure. So we do appreciate Dennis Lenz and all the work that he's done here. Now there's a big bill. There's a couple of them, but there's some really good bills going through right now. The Montana legislature, I did report on it yesterday. We're going to have and do an interview today at 4:00 with two of the authors, people have worked very hard on this latest internet censorship bill, which is going to be, we're hoping it's going to be one of the models to be used across the nation. And we been working with, actually I had Randy Pinocci and Brad Cheetah on the line here 2 or 3 weeks ago, specifically to talk about that bill. And that's before they actually implemented it, and it's now has a bill number. I think it's going to be going before committee tomorrow. So there's a good chance that, and other states are doing this. And as I talked before, folks, don't put your eye on DC and Washington, D.C. There's nothing but a bunch of corrupt, blackmailed, pedophile criminals. That's really basically what Washington, D.C. is. Corrupt, blackmailed, pedophile criminals. I should do the shirt, because that pretty much sums it up right there. So don't cast your eyes and your attention on those folks. Keep it on your local legislatures, your city halls, your town halls, your county commissioners, right? Your local representatives, and let these people know, because as you know, with the cancer culture and the other side, coming down hard on some people, even visiting their house and trying to get them fired from work and going after their children. And so this is, there's some peril for these people to put their neck out and try to stand up for the folks. So your support is greatly needed by them and appreciated. Just to know that there's other people there that support them and that are behind them. This is important. May seem like, well, it's only me. It's just one phone call. It's only one. Yeah, but you know what? If just only me does it 100 times, then they've got, 100 letters of support. And they know that 100 represents probably 1,000 or 10,000. I don't know what those numbers are. But the fact of the matter is, they need your help. These representatives are just people like you and me. Here in Montana, they do it for like 90 days or something, right? 90 days or 95 days, whatever, 94 days, whatever it is. And then they go back to their regular life, right? Farmers, construction people, sales people. I mean, so this is, they're just regular folks like us. This is not like DC, where they hang out there all the time and, get fat off the graft that they can muster from their lobbyists and all these other scoundrels that hang around DC. It's not like that here. I mean, there's scoundrels in hell, and don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, these people that are, except for the governor, of course, and Secretary of State, Attorney General, sure, they're there, of course, for the whole time. But the legislators, they're there for a couple, 3 months, and then they go back to their life. So support these folks, because they're your neighbors. They really are. They're your neighbors. That's all we've got here for today, folks. We do appreciate you looking in. We really appreciate Dennis Lenz coming on and talking about these CPS issues, these CPS bills he has going through. And really, of the ones that I really like, I like the one where he is requiring CPS workers to have some sort of a licensure or some sort of a standard. And then that way they have something to lose. right? They have something to lose at that point. I mean, if they have to work hard to get their license and they have to, it has value to them, then they are not going to want to lose that. So that's going to help keep them in check. I don't really care what we have to do. I don't care if we have to sign a person on every social worker, whatever it takes. We have to stop this madness. We have to stop this kidnapping, child trafficking, money laundering ring known as Child Protective Services all across the country. It's Child Procurement Services really is what it should be called. If you don't believe me, look it up, folks. Don't believe a word I say. I will guarantee, and I'm not really a betting guy, but if I was, I'd bet $1,000 to anybody that did the extensive research into CPS and did not come back with the same results that I came back with, and everybody that looks into it comes back with, that it's an out-of-control, lawless, unconstitutional child kidnapping, money laundering ring. Again, wish I was wrong. Thanks so much for looking in, folks. Appreciate you joining us here on Montana Gazette Radio. You can go to montanagazetteradio.com, montanagazetteradio.com, or montanadailygazette.com, or, of course, the flagship is what I meant to say, hardly a powerhouse, the flagship Northwest Liberty News, and you can support me there. Thanks so much. Appreciate you looking in. I'll be back again. I'll actually be on here later on today, doing it, but I'll probably post it tomorrow morning. I'll post that interview later on tomorrow morning. So please like and support the channel. Help share the video and get it around. I actually am able to operate based upon the graciousness of my listeners, and I thank you so much for those that have supported me. I really do appreciate that. It means a lot. It helps keep these doors open. Running on a shoestring budget here, but I'm going to keep going until they shut the lights out and pull me out, I guess. So we do appreciate you looking in. Again, I'm your host, James White. Till next time, this is James White from Montana Gazette Radio, saying bye now.